Alrighty then. Hey guys, my name's LDC and welcome back to day 4 of my Agrarian Skies 2-week challenge series. So yesterday we sorted out our resource production, and as you can see, things are looking pretty healthy, pretty strong. Between episodes I've been sort of tinkering around and improving some storage solutions. You can see I've thrown barrels all over the mob spawner. So now it's picking up the mana beans and all this stuff much more effectively. It's not running out of space. The other thing I've done is just up here, nothing too fancy, but I've set this up to take buffers of each of gravel, sand and dust. So these are much less likely to jam up, because even all these like 11 autonomous activators weren't quite keeping up. And what this means is with this little lever system I can control which of these different kinds of thing I would like to be auto-sieving. Within reason. It's pretty slow, since these stock up like 9 stacks of whatever's going on inside them. And that also means I've got supplies of gravel, sand and dust if I want to use those for building purposes, like say throwing a bunch of sand through a furnace. So, the other thing I've done, before I start today, I kind of want to set up just a couple little more automation things. I've got the beginnings of a little tree farm here, and I forgot my bone meal, so I'm just going to go grab some bone meal. There's always something. Always something. Because what I really want to be doing is automating some plastic production. So with this here, rubber sapling, I'll bone meal it up because I have none of the items that these produce just yet. Wait for the harvester to grab that. It's going to output things into the back. So with this raw rubber, this sapling, and this rubber wood, I'm going to set up my sorting system here. So, need to be refilling my planter, and I'll do that now also. With these, I want my rubber wood logs to go in the first. Oh geez. Kind of like that, but a little bit different. Rubber wood logs to go in here. Excess saplings to go in here. And finally, the raw rubber is going to go in this furnace. So I whitelist raw rubber into the furnace. Now once that happens, and I power the furnaces, I've got to power the furnaces. Dear oh dear. That's okay. I built myself up a bunch of extra redstone energy conduit, which is in my inventory for that very purpose. Again, it's like I planned and then forgot that I planned what I was doing. So I'll just jam these in here like so. So now this is powered. The raw rubber sits in the first redstone furnace here, slowly cooks itself up. It's going to output to the right after inputting from the bottom. This is going to take input from the left, cook up the rubber bar, create plastic, and output that to the top. So I'll expand this out a bit, simply by going like so. Close, but no cigar, there we go. Just throw down a couple torches, and the final step is to make sure it's outputting everything. So I set that to ignore redstone. It's going to start pumping stuff out. I'm going to get this thing going by bone mealing a couple of these trees. And so that's going to produce plastic for me, which is going to be super helpful later, but not now. The next thing I wanted to set up today was some salt production. Salt's pretty key in the production of vaguely decent food. Just vaguely decent. That's my goal right now. Vaguely decent food. Carrot juice is pretty irritating. So to make myself some salt, I'm going to use a cyclic assembler, which is made like so. I'm going to make 2 of these, and a schematic, which is 2 paper and just some lapis. I've still been pulverizing logs to get my paper. So if I put the cyclic assembler down here, it's inputting water from this here aqueous accumulator I've jammed underneath it. So if I set up a schematic that does not take a pickaxe, if I set up a schematic that takes water and produces regular fresh water, I can then set this thing up to start making these freshwater items. Freshwater items are nice, but what I really want is to just go straight to the salt. Salt is made with water in a pot. Excuse me. So I'm going to make a pot here. It's just here, which is just iron in a stick. Like so. And I throw the water bucket and the pot in the assembler's schematic region. I give it the pot to work with, I hit tick, and it's going to start jamming salt through. And it's going to make 1 salt for every bucket of water, which is a bit slow, but I'm just going to be able to leave it running. So I'll set this to output to the right, which it already is, throw down a chest, and there, I have a tiny little salt mine. Wonderful. But I said today that I wanted to be working on steel and blood magic. So to get started on steel, I've been jamming a bunch of clay through my furnace to make bricks. I've also over here been, oh no, turning that off, been jamming a bunch of cobblestone into my smeltery through that hopper. You can see it's emptied there because I foolishly had my auto removal system set up. So I'm going to clear that out and redo this cobblestone system, which is pretty simple. Because I want seared stone, I'm going to throw cobblestone into the smeltery, and I'm going to want a bunch of it, so I'll throw a bunch into this hopper, and that's going to fill with seared stone. So once that's done, I can take these bricks I've been cooking up and start making scorched bricks. So we'll be back once that's all melted down. Alrighty then, so we have ourselves a little bit of seared stone, just to get us started. First of all, I'm going to do something fancy and make the steelworking book, like so. And then all it takes is to start pouring scorched stone onto these bricks, which is a slightly grindy process. Alrighty then, so I've used some scorched bricks to make myself just a drain and a controller, which is all I want for now. To flesh out the rest of the high oven, I can speed up my brick creating process by using brick blocks in a casting basin. So that's, you know, a little bit faster. So, I ran out of liquid seared stone, so I'm waiting for a bunch more of that to cook up. Instead of twiddling my thumbs, I thought I'd start expanding some farms. Now, I really should have brought my builder's wand. Now, I got a potato from the mob farm, which is quite nice, because usually to get a potato I might have to sieve a bunch of dirt. It's got like a 2 or 3% drop chance. Because potatoes are basically pretty excellent. You can use them to make bread, you can use them to make french fries, you can use them to make all sorts of stuff with very minimal extra effort. Of course, you can use anything to make anything if you've got the other resources. But while I have a bunch of sieved resources, I'm not doing super well for things like foodstuffs. So I'm going to fix that up now. Just make myself a little farm base. I'm not going to automate this yet, because I don't feel like it. I'm not going to be automating farms too much for a little bit, but I do want a big old potato farm. So I'm going to bone meal this up to get things started. I could have used the watering can, but I've got plenty of bone meal, and this is clearly significantly faster. If I were to have put down a planter, for example, the planter could till the earth for me. But I have this nice matic, my go-to farming tool. Works on everything but gravel. And so I can do this manually, which is a little bit quicker than building the planter. So I'm going to expand this potato farm by which point I should have a bunch more seared stone I can make a high oven with. Alrighty then, so we've got ourselves a bunch of scorched bricks and various components. All I really want to be doing now is just building this thing up. It's just going to be 4 high to start off with. That should be enough to get me started. Controller on the front, train on the side. Just going to jump up and finish this off. And we have ourselves a high oven. Nice. So now I'm going to get set up to start using this thing. Alrighty then, so first we want to set up our output here. Just going to dig out a little space. That's kind of like the casting basin that I wanted. That's actually a block of charcoal. So, fluid duct. Set to output and powered. Shall power on the side of it like so. In fact, no I won't, because instead I'll put down an item duct here, throw a bit of cobble here, and power both of them with one lever. I've actually got nothing to output this into, but that's fine. I'll plonk down a chest there and we'll be good to go. So like I said, I've made myself up a bunch of charcoal blocks. That's going to keep this thing running for quite a while. So now, if we take a look at our handy dandy steel working in you book I made earlier, it gives you the recipe for steel here. There's gunpowder, redstone, and sand with iron to make steel. So I've got a couple of iron blocks here. I'm going to throw in like so. So, redstone, gunpowder, sand. I always get these round the wrong way. Let's make sure. Gunpowder, redstone, sand. Gunpowder, redstone, sand. Now all we have to do is flick this thing on, and it's going to start heating up. Once it's started heating up past a certain point, the melting point of steel, it's going to produce 4 blocks of liquid steel, pump that out into the casting basin, which is then going to be pumping out into a receptacle of my choosing. I'd better go get me a receptacle. Like, say, a chest. Alright, so that's steel done. We're going to be pumping more into this and expanding the height of it to increase its speed, because its main use is going to be to help us build the big reactor, which is something I want to be getting onto pretty soon. But before I can do that, I need to jump into some blood magic of all things. So we're going to set up for that now. So just before I get into blood magic real quick, I wanted to make myself a slightly less irritating food source. So I'm going to be making French fries. I'm not super stoked about them, but they are the cheapest food I can currently produce and the best that I can make with no additional resources, as it were. I could upgrade to toast, but that would involve making dough and cooking everything twice, and it would only really be slightly better than French fries. So, I'm going to use the salt from my salt mine, some potatoes from my potato farm, with some bakeware. Stack of French fries. And they're about 50% better than what I was using before. More importantly, they're slightly more nourishing fries. So a higher saturation than the carrot juice from earlier, which was unfulfilling. So that's the biggest issue. That's going to stop me having to pause to scull carrot juice every 5 minutes. I'm going to make another stack of these and throw everything pertinent to this process in the food chest. Okay then, so we have our setup over here for the blood altar. I've mapped it out all the way down to tier 5, even if nothing's been completed. The planks are just going to denote where all the rooms are going to go when it's all set up, and I've got some blocks of copper in the very corners for the beacons later. So all I need to do now to start setting this up is to make the blood altar, which is pretty simple. Furnace, some stones, some precious gems, and jam that on the top. Cool. Now I need to start filling it. I'll make myself the knife. The sacrificial knife, gold, iron, and glass. Gold, iron, glass. And start cutting myself. You can see the blood altar's filling, and everything is well. I'll take myself down to half a heart. To a single heart, even. Now, if I'm going to keep doing that, I kind of want some way to replenish my health. I'm currently dying. There's not a lot of blood in that altar. There's just some. Okay, but we'll come back to the blood altar, because before I can do any of that, it's time to start something I've been putting off for probably a little bit too long, and that is witch water production. You can see I've got the bare bones essentials of a little automated witch water production system here. So I'm just going to throw some barrels on these pipes. These barrels are going to make the witch water, and these pipes are going to pump it out. This is looking a bit better. You can see the barrels are making witch water. The whaler tweaks tells me how long they've got left. So once that's finished, these, set to pump anything but water, will pump the witch water into this barrel. I've got 2 drums now full of water, which is probably more than I need. I'll set one over here to continue to fill. Once this is empty, I'll swap it out. So I've got myself a witch water drum. Awesome. So with that witch water, I'm going to be wanting to make some soul sand. Soul sand is simply witch water in a barrel with regular sand. So I'll set up a system to do that for me now. Okay, after I set up my little soul sand collection farm then, I went AFK to get a sandwich and did not realize that in fact this area here looked a little bit like this because I'd forgotten to light it up. So while I was AFK and far away from that platform, a bunch of mobs spawned, and unfortunately they killed me. I have 1 life left. So that's not exactly ideal. So I'm actually going to grab a couple more lives here. Because I haven't used any, of course. I need to hoard these for a quest later, but that got me a bit nervous, so I'm going to bring myself up to 4. I've currently died, as you can see, 1 time, 2 monsters. But that's okay overall. Oh look, there's another one over here. I very definitely need to be more careful about what I'm doing here. So, the little soul sand system is up. It's more or less the same deal as the dirt or the clay barrel things, except I've got witch water pumping in. I've got a nearly full witch water drum that I hooked up to this, but I've hooked up the witch water from the actual production system here. You can see it's clogged up right now because, well, it's full. There's nowhere else for witch water to go. So I'm going to change that by getting myself a couple of stacks of sand. I want a decent amount of sand here. I've currently set this system to only be sieving sand. The reason for that is I want Yellorium to make a big reactor pretty soon. But first, if I throw some sand in this chest, it pumps it out and into the witch water barrels, which immediately pump out soul sand. So that's pretty solid. The next thing I want to be doing is sieving that soul sand. So I'm going to wait to get myself a bunch and then run it through my auto sieving system upstairs. So I've got a little bit of soul sand in the autonomous activator. I'm going to switch it off around robin mode and tell it to use the first slot only to crank through that little bit of soul sand. I'm sieving it down because what I do want is a little bit of nether wart. And these are just going to end up in the default chests back here. Alright, so I got a couple of bits of nether wart from sieving that soul sand. I'm going to start making myself just a little nether wart farm. As you can see, bone meal does not work on the nether wart, but it's going to be like the slimy sapling. I'm just going to water and can the base, and that's going to increase the speed at which these things grow. So I'll get myself this little farm, and move on to the next bit. Alrighty then, so I've got a little nether wart farm going, and a little bit of nether wart on me. Also, while I was doing that, I came up here, checked up on my high oven. It had pumped out for me about a stack of blocks of steel, because I'd put in a stack of blocks of iron. I've put in another stack now, so that's just going to keep cranking steel for me at a pretty good pace. I used some of that steel to do things like make myself some armor, and also the Tinker's Construct Tool Forge, because I want a better weapon right now. I'm aiming to make a cleaver, so I've made myself the requisite stone casts, so I'm going to start making myself some metal casts for them. I've got some aluminum brass in this smeltery, as well as some steel cooking up for later. So I have the large blade cast, the tough stone rod cast, and the large plate cast. I remove the useless now stone templates from the vicinity, and my steel it's just starting to finish cooking up. I click it to move it down to the bottom, and I start pouring myself some pieces of a cleaver. So I'm going to be making this out of steel, just because I have a lot of steel. I could have used alumite, which is, I think, a little better, like tinily, marginally better, and maybe a little cheaper, but the process to make it is more complex. Oh, I actually want 2 tough rods. And finally, the large blade. You can see I put in way too much steel. I just sort of thought, oh, I'll just dump it in. I didn't really count it out. I probably should have counted it out. I guess each of these takes 8, 16. Yeah, I put in like about 90 more than I needed. So I'll deal with that later. I'm not going to deal with that now. So I'm going to make myself a cleaver, large plate, 2 tough rods, and a large blade. I have this tasty looking cleaver, and also some tasty looking armor. I am set for a fight, which is what I'm going to give myself now. I'm going to grab myself a lava drum that I have lying about, with also a bucket, because I've been making up some angry dolls. Angry dolls I'm going to use to make blazes, which is just a precious doll. I'm going to make a couple of these just in case. An angry doll, and then some nether wart, blaze powder, glowstone, etc. So I've got 3 angry dolls now. I'm going to go somewhere not too irritating. Oh, I know. All I have in here is a bed and a pan. I never use either of these. So this can be my little arena. I'll even lock them in. We're going to fight to the death in my bedroom. So, a stone barrel full of lava, into which I throw an angry doll, and it is making a blaze. Happily, it's got a little percentage ticker over there. I'm at 10%. This is going to take a while, so I'll just cut until he spawns. And the blaze has arrived. I one-hit him and get a blaze rod. That's probably all I'm going to need for now, but I'll come back and repeat my run in the arena. If the circumstances call for it. So I'm going to want some smooth stone now, which I have lying about. Use that to make a brewing stand. That's not quite right, is it? What's a brewing stand recipe? I don't know vanilla recipes. It's all cobblestone, even. I was under the impression that it was not that thing. Now, there's some quests related to the brewing stand, so I'm just going to sort of start chunking through some quests that I've completed. Before I do that, I'm going to clear my inventory. Alright, so our inventory is nice and tidy. I'm going to open this up, have a look at what I've got. Ah yes, I killed those zombies that spawned when I did some silly things. It's kind of a useless reward, it's just going to reset itself later. It's a new repeatable quest. If you haven't played the updated version of Agrarian Skies, and not a lot of people have, that's one of sort of the new mechanics. There are repeatable quests that give you hearts and heart canisters and things. So you in theory have an infinite supply of hearts and heart canisters. And that's based on a time interval. I've also apparently got myself a fish. I've done this casting thing. I'm going to take the liquid slime bucket on this one. This is quite an important one to save me some time later. I've also made some autonomous activators apparently. Now I was under the impression... yes, and some steel-powered flight. I think the Lorium dust. I'm not going to be using graveyard soil in this playthrough. Also going to grab me a stack of green brains, bones, for the quest that calls for green brains and bones. Hope I get a good potion flask actually. The rubber quest has been completed. Yes. So this one wants me to go to the Nether. It wants me to make an auto brewer. I don't have to go to the Nether, because I can make an auto brewer right now, using the current brewing stand I have. Alright, so I can now put together this auto brewer. It's a pretty simple recipe. 2 redstone repeaters, some other stuff. It's important that you have the brewing stand, and of course the plastic sheets from my plastic sheet farm. So I have one of these that I'm probably not going to be using. I may change my mind on that. I'll throw it in machine parts. Gonna get me another reward bag. And yes, this was the one I was looking for. I can't claim this reward because I don't have enough space. I'm going to clear out my inventory. Mainly by using my handy dandy quest box to throw in quest rewards I neither need nor want. Got some regen potions and some health potions. A lovely blood magic regeneration potion. That was pretty much exactly what I was looking for, and why I was going through all these quests. That's what I'm going to be using for blood magic later. I've also got some bits of heart, a instant health potion. The vanilla Minecraft potions are not particularly great because you use them and they're gone. The blood magic potions are top notch and exactly what I needed. So we'll continue to get rid of all this junk. Ooh, I can actually use this scorched brick here, just to, for fun, complete another quest in here, which requires just me to make a scorched duct. So I throw together a scorched duct with no actual, work required. So that also completes me this quest, and I'm going to pick again scorched bricks. I don't need the graveyard soil. I will use them to expand my steel capacities later. This was part of the reason I made steel armor, so I could complete this quest. It's going to ask me to make a deep tank and some steam stuff later, but not quite yet. So I continue to clear out my ridiculous backlog of quest rewards. Bits of hearts, reward bags, useless apples, and my inventory in general. Alright, so things are looking a little bit tidier now. I'm going to clean inventory again, which is always nice to see. So I'll finally collect this reward bag. There's still plenty of these to do, but we're going through them pretty well. This I'm going to leave for quite some time because I just don't really see a point in that right yet. But that's cool. We've got a new mob stuff chest where we used to keep our random metal bits, which of course are now being processed quite happily. Now the fun part, I'm going to take this big old stack of reward bags, and we're going to go through and see what we can find. Golem's pretty cool. Oh, that's very nice. That's really cool, actually. That's going to actually be useful. That's, of course, terrible. Of course... oh, a sound muffler. Sound muffler I can throw over here on my mob tower. So that's, you know, not useful, but it's okay. A book with an enchantment of repair, so I'm never going to use that. New saplings, useless clay, useless decorative blocks. Ugh. Okay, well, we got some magical wood and an enchantment table, which is pretty cool. The rest of these are... do these produce light? They do, so that's a decorative light block. Which I'll maybe use, but honestly probably not. Decorating the area does not really get me closer to finishing the mod pack, so that's not something I'm down with. Alright, so that's a little bit of progression that's quite nice. I'm going to use this regen potion I got to start making me a weak blood orb. So, I cut myself a bunch. Get way down low. And I would prefer the instant health blood magic potion, but this is not bad. So I'll keep myself at 2 hearts. Alright, just as I was checking the recipe there, because I was confused as to why it wasn't working, I'm going to stand here and spam this for a bit. I'm also going to use this newfound ability to bleed a lot to make myself some slates. So I've got a couple of slates. Basically the absolute first thing I want is the divination sigil, which is going to help me analyze my current blood magic, my LP, how much is in my altar, all that. Can help me make good decisions. So, I have 0 in my network, and the altar has 2,000 in it. I'd like to crack through some of the magic quests right now, just to get some of the vaguely useful rewards, actually, for continuing to progress through magic. So, in order to do that, you can see my questing book here, the first thing I need, really, is the Thaumanomicon. So I'm going to throw together myself a wand, get a bunch of iron, make myself some iron caps. Just want 2 of these. With some sticks. Iron capped wooden wand. Now I need a bookshelf. Throw it down any old place and whack it with my wand. The Thaumanomicon. I don't really want that. What I really want is the rewards. So that unlocks the first. I'm going to take the self-sacrifice rune, which is going to be handy short term, but not long term. I've also done this. Reward bag is nice. And this. Here we go. The Greater Power Catalyst. This is what I'm after. Now I want to make the alchemic chemistry set as well. I have this blaze rod lying about, and a little bit of cobble. Well, a bunch of stacks of cobble. So I'm going to make myself the brewing stand. And to upgrade this into the alchemic chemistry set, I just want 2 obsidian. I have some of that, and of course my orb. Doesn't like shift clicking in the orb. Do this manually. And that's the chemistry set. Yeah, the chemistry set is going to be nice. For so many reasons. The chemistry set is what I really wanted to be making. It was kind of the point of getting into blood magic today. So, this next quest is asking me to make this blood rune. Again, trying to shift click in the weak blood orb. This generally goes better once I have the ME system working. So that's that sorted. I'm going to claim the speed rune. Yes, the speed rune. The 2 speed runes even. And we're getting on our way. The tier 2 altar was something I also wanted to do today. So, I'm just going to build that off camera. Take my divination sigil and divine the status of my altar. It is tier 2. I'm going to prove that to the game by cutting myself until there's 5,000 LP in there, and throwing in an emerald. And there we have it. The Apprentice Blood Orb. Awesome. Alrighty then, so things are coming along here. The next thing I want to be making is some leather. I'm going to do that in the Alchemic Chemistry set. Requires 200 LP, and I have about 2.5k, which isn't a lot, but it is enough. So, I grab a bucket of water, I throw it in here with these 3 zombie brains and 1 flint, and my weak blood orb. Little particles start flying, and leather starts generating from these items. And I can use leather in the blood altar, just like so, to make a cow. I'm going to make a couple cows. So, that's 3 cows. I'm going to hold on to them. And we'll start finding someplace appropriate for them in just a little bit. Alright, so the final project for today is kind of a big one. I'm going to run through and grab myself a jetpack, because walking is for squares. Jetpack's a pretty lengthy process, particularly the high-end one. I'm going to start pulverizing some coal though, and that'll get me off to a good start. Make a leather strap, 2 resonant thrusters, the flux capacitor, and we have ourselves the resonant jetpack. That wasn't too strenuous. That was a bit difficult. It was a complicated process. So now I'm going to tidy up my inventory, set out something to charge this bad boy, and we will be getting pretty close to time. Alright, so I made myself an energetic infuser to charge this jetpack. I'm going to get rid of these covers I was using to stop it getting caught on fire. Just get rid of all these things, and throw my jetpack in there, which is just going to drain everything from my power for a little bit, and will continue to do so, I imagine, until I've pretty significantly upgraded. Okay, what was kind of a priority was setting myself up a couple of new farms. Over here, where my cows are going to live, I'm going to throw them a power cable going in this general direction, and just hooking up with this planter. Just like so, and plonk a rancher pointing inwards, and dig my way out. Out of the back of this rancher, the milk is going to be pumped. So I throw a fluid duct coming up over here into a empty drum, just like so. You can see the rancher has power. I'm going to give it something to do. Oh no, I fell down. Well, now I live in here with the cows. And you can see that thing's sucking up milk. And it's going to throw it in this drum. So I've got milk coming in. The other thing I wanted to do was get some more string going. I was a bit grumpy about how little string I had, and I'm starting to need it for stuff, and it's holding me back. So I've got myself a bunch of just random trees in the middle of nowhere here, and I've infested 1 leaf. So I'm going to leave that for a bit, and then I'm going to have myself a whole bunch of string that should keep me going for the foreseeable future. Alright, so that's more or less all the time I have for today. I've got to go and upload these videos. Before I go, we're just going to jam through a couple of reward bags I see lying about. We've got a book, which is an enchanted efficiency 3. Some nether saltpeter, that's actually not bad. Oh, this is amazing. Oh, this is magical. Look, and it doesn't even have cows, because that's the only one I do have. So I've got a whole bunch of that's... I've never seen such a good reward bag. That's fantastic. And 5 ender lily seeds is pretty meh. I don't really like using those. They're not in a time challenged version of the game anyway. But man, that's really good. A blizz of all things? Are you kidding me? That's fantastic. Wow. And all these villages, and oh my goodness, I've got some pets now. These are the only ones that aren't actually useful, so I'll start. Oh, thanks, Jaded. Oh, you're the best. Never played vanilla Minecraft before, so I don't know what to do with these wolves. Oh dear, I've made a mistake. Alright, but I guess all that's really important is that I now have a fully charged resonant jetpack. So we're gods now. We can... This is creative flight, more or less. This is pretty spectacular. So yeah, thanks so much for stopping by, everybody. We are pretty much out of time. Today we cracked through and got some steel going. We've got a bunch of steel flooding into the system. We started up some blood magic, got a tier 2 altar, and started cracking on and using that blood magic to make some cows. It's got some potato farms going, the salt mines, and of course we made some pretty stupid friends. One's still stuck in here, and I think that's where he's going to be. That's just where he lives now. Alrighty then. Well, hey, thanks so much again for stopping by. Come by tomorrow for day 5, and on day 5 we're going to be starting up our ME system, and with a view to moving towards big reactors and laser drills. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I've been LDC, and this has been day 4 of my Agrarian Skies 2-week challenge series.